Hey, what's going on? How's everybody doing? Excuse me. How's everyone doing? My name is Joseph Robinson. I am tuning in to you to discuss some things about PTSD, some misconceptions, and some things that you should know about supporting those who are going through it. Whether, if you don't know what PTSD is, it's post-traumatic stress disorder, okay? And so, one of the things that I wanted to really kind of chime in on is the misconception that PTSD is only for veterans, in which I am a veteran myself, but I wanted to let you know that there's more to it than just that. PTSD gives you, or it activates, or the symptoms may include things like nightmares, any type of unwanted memories, or even trauma that you have encountered. Okay, so and those memories of the trauma they're heightened during the times during the times that the PTSD is activated or is going on at that time period. So those moments that you're dealing with stress, some people some people react differently to it. For instance, some people may stay in their homes for a long period of time. Or they may scream because something has traumatized them to the point to where, even from a smell, or they may become hostile, very hyper vigilant. These are things that can happen to someone who's been in some type of trauma. The psychological effects behind that, and the behavior. And I'm not a doctor, but I've been through, or a psychologist, or a psychiatrist, but I've been through enough to to kind of know some of the things that I go through, and that others may even experience as well. Okay, so when I say psychological, I mean like flashbacks, any type of severe anxiety, or mistrust. So, for instance, let's say you go out into the public. Some people do not like others walking up behind them. And that's understandable because, and that can be, and I'm not going to normalize this, okay? I'm not going to say people who are normal. Just because you have PTSD doesn't mean that you're not normal. I'm breaking that misconception right now because I've had people look at me and say, "Well, you look fine. You look normal," and Also, on the flip side of that, just because someone looks like they're doing okay doesn't mean that they don't suffer from or have PTSD. All right. So it goes hand in hand. Just because I look okay doesn't mean that I'm doing okay. But just because I look like I don't, or I do, or I'm going through something doesn't mean that I'm not normal. All right. I'm just dealing with it, the behavior aspect of it, the psychological aspect of it, and also from your mood standpoint. The moods are going to fluctuate and your moods are going to change. Okay. Let me back up. So let me back up to the psychological part, or the mistrust and the anxiety. So if someone walks up behind you and you're in a shop, maybe a shopping center, or my back's starting to hurt. It's all I use is jumping out of airplanes. Someone's walking up behind you. Any person with sensitivity issues, or just your aura, someone gets in your space, you're going to feel that. Okay, you're going to feel that. So someone walks behind you now. A person with heightened awareness or hypervigilance will act differently. Let me say that. They will act differently. And that difference will be severe anxiety, severe mistrust, or even flashbacks from someone who has maybe violated them, or an experience that they've had before. And the behavioral part of it is that they become very irritable. Okay? They become very irritable. And sometimes hostility can arise within that situation. And so, what you want to do, okay, is you want to look at, if you can, at that moment, because there's always the heat of the moment. Let's say somebody, bam, they take their fist, bam, and hit you upside the face. Now, you can do one or many things. You can say, okay, you just hit me upside my face. First, you're going to react. Boom. And all the senses in your body are just going to, from here all the way down, here, up, come back down, all the way through your body. So your senses are going to move. You're going to feel those. Okay. So now, your behavior, how you respond, is totally up to you. Totally. Now, is there a such thing as the triggered response? The triggered response is someone bops you and you're automatic. That hand out of nowhere just comes and you protect yourself. Now, yes, that happens as well. But you, just like a boxer, can train themselves on how to respond, not necessarily when they've been hit, but when the right moment, at the time of when the right moment has come upon them. And what I mean by that is, and your response doesn't have what happened to you doesn't have to determine the type of response. It doesn't have to reciprocate that same response either, if I'm making sense there. So we've covered the behavioral part of it, the psychological part of it, and so now with your mood is going to change as well. Let's give an example of home with your spouse, whether it be your wife or your husband who has experienced a traumatic event, whether it be rape. They've been to war. They've been abused, any kind of way. I mean, there's many other things. Those are kind of like in the top. You know, they've been abducted. Those are kind of in the top tier of trauma. All right, mental trauma, physical violence, verbal violence, hostility. So that mood will ultimately change for that individual. And again, back to the psychological part, they will become mistrusting towards the other person, right? If you think about it, that's what's going to happen. They will become disloyal or distrusting towards the other person, which will cause a slew of other chain of events to come along. So with that, for the mood, you lose interest in an individual or things. All right, individual or things or pleasure. Excuse me. Pleasure in activities such as going outside, maybe riding your bike, maybe going to the gym, just because of what you have experienced. Okay, and those activities have just become null and void now, and it's not something that you're doing on purpose, and it's not something that you automatically can control. But it takes time to get to that point to where you're able to open up the door or open up the blinds, if you will, in order for your mind to have some type of Jello pudding. I mean, not Jello pudding. I'm thinking about Jello pudding. Some type of normalcy in your life, not necessarily being back to who you were, the I guess what we consider the normal person that you were, the original Joseph Robinson, or the original Stacy McGrew, or the original Barney, whatever. I'm just paraphrasing here. It takes a while to get back to that, because having a pleasure in activity after a traumatic event, you don't want to do that. I'm gonna be real with you, like, for real. Like, sometimes I'm locked up in here and in here, and I don't want to do nothing. That's the realest thing ever, and I don't want to do nothing. So, and that's just real. Like, I just can't. Like, I physically can't. Like, here, I can't, mentally and physically cannot do nothing. I can't move. I can't get myself to do some things. It doesn't mean that eventually it won't happen, but there has to be a spark, all right, and a change here, all right? So, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, has come a long way. It has come a long way because a lot of people don't feel, and especially it's been something that I'll bring it back to where people are always linking it to military. So it didn't really come to a head for the military, but several years ago, about PTSD and the effects of it and how it can affect the troops. This was a long time coming, but it really didn't start passing laws that you really could not do certain things in the military because you have PTSD. Carry a assigned weapon, or all kinds of things. Certain things. You be on profile, or they found out about it. You know what I'm saying? All those kind of things because of the behavior, your behavioral aspect, your psychological aspect, the mood. Now on top of that, you're not sleeping good, are you? Just go ahead and shake your head no. You're not sleeping good. So your sleep is what? It's broken. Either you're getting maybe 3-4 hours straight, or it's broken. Or it's the opposite. Or you're depressed and you're sleeping too much. Like all these things, like insomnia, or you're not able to sleep, or nightmares, night sweats, night terrors, all that kind of stuff. These are things that are involved within PTSD, the PTSD family, the symptoms, the experience of PTSD that's ongoing in an individual's life that has had trauma. All right. Also, with that comes an emotional detachment, an emotional detachment from people, places, and things. Okay, such as maybe, well, we have service dogs, but I'm more or less talking about. Excuse me. I got to keep going. I'm more or less talking about the emotional attachment from people, or something that's not personally involved in your life, that's close enough to keep that tie in that relationship commingled, okay, conjoined together. All right. So these are some of the things that you may experience when you may disassociate. Okay, so when you disassociate, a lot of the things from disassociation that's common with PTSD is that there's this blank stare off into no man's land. Sometimes it's that, or sometimes it's someone can be talking to you and you're talking back, but you're not there. You're talking back and you're saying, well, I can relate to that and I understand that, but you're not there. Now they may be able to ask you to repeat yourself, and you may be able to repeat some of it, may not be all of it. Sometimes you just go away. You disappear. Up here it disappears. Another thing people don't know about is the reptilian brain, the amygdala, and how that works and triggers. That amygdala thinks that the traumatic event, if you've been shot at, you've been raped, you've been harmed in any way, that amygdala thinks it's real. So when it comes, you're reacting like you did when it happened. And that's something that you're just gonna live with. You're gonna have to live with. And there's therapy, yeah. You go to counseling, you go to therapy and things of that nature, and that's good. I do it. But these are just some of the things that you live with. Traumatic events happen. And I know this may not hit home with a lot of people, But I'm not saying that prayer doesn't work. I'm not saying that people can't lay hands on somebody and pray for them to not experience these things. I'm not saying that God is not in the healing business. But there is a but. We have, I, I can't say how many vets we have. I don't have those statistics pulled up at all. I don't. Maybe next time when I talk about this, I'll talk about some other things later. But we have a plethora of those individuals who have trauma, and can prayer and meditation work to help them work through it? I believe that. Can they be healed from it? I'm not saying I don't believe that. I'm just saying that we still have a lot of people that are still dealing with that. And a lot of people that are praying that they get delivered. And a lot of people go to the grave not delivered with that. So I don't want to make an unbeliever out of individuals who are dealing with PTSD to believe that they can be healed. That's not what I'm here to do. That's not what I'm here. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is continue therapy, continue confiding in whoever it is that's going to help you, your spiritual guidance, your pastor, whoever it is that's helping you maybe get through this, a mentor, someone that can help ease the trauma, because trauma is trauma. And I'll give you another example of trauma. Someone who burns their finger on an iron. What happens with that? When you get close to an iron, something happens to your sensors in your finger that triggers, and it's here, it's that amygdala. It triggers that, oh, it's hot. That could be a hot surface, even though it's not even plugged in. Your finger will get hot. The psychological piece it will get hot. You will manifest that. It's happened to me. Whether or not you believe that, I'm not going to tell you to try it. It's happened to me. Or you smell a certain smell, and what happens? You looking around for what happened, the perpetrator, or it may take you back to whenever. All right, you hear a song, reminds you of Snoop Dogg, brings you back to the 90s, right? So it's amazing how things can trigger and bring you back. Now, unless that song or music, that's not necessarily traumatizing, but it's something that's stored in your memory that brings you back to that moment. And it's the same thing, which is even greater. That amygdala has that memory. It's like an act. It's the old brain, the reptilian brain, and it activates and it gets you right back to where you were. And all of a sudden, you have these unwanted thoughts, and you have these emotional detachments, and you have fire, which is literally what's going on at the time that happened when you rolled over in that Humvee or whatever it was, that Raptor you were in, or that man came and jumped on you and raped you, or that woman did what she did, slapped the crap out of you, and maybe took some things from you, or put you on child support, or maybe she raped you. I don't know. Or maybe a child got abducted or something like that, and the family is going through a rough time. That don't go away. Imagine somebody sitting in a prison cell for doing something that they committed the crime or they didn't. Both will experience somewhat of the same symptoms and it's trauma. Both will. One is guilty, one is not. One is blamed that they did it and they did not do it. So they're experiencing the effects of, I didn't do it, now I have to live through this for the next 20 years, looking for clemency here, looking for someone to pardon them. And then you got the other who actually did it, and they have to deal with that as well. And that's trauma too. Trauma both on that individual as well as on the perpetrator, as well as the person who they harmed. So I'm going to wrap this up that there is a, let me see if I can find it. I know if you are experiencing any type of mental health issues, I mean, this could be it's free, it's confidential, 24 hours a day. It's called SAMHSA National Hotline. It's 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-HELP, and it's or 4357. They also help with individuals who are facing mental. This is a mental issue we're talking about here, a substance abuse disorder. So their hotline for that, and also the suicide hotline. We're going to look that up real quick, and I'm going to give you that information as well. That's always something that you need to be able to have. The National Suicide Prevention Line is 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255. And they also have an option where you can chat online with them. Twitter has at the Lifeline at 800-273-TALK on Twitter as well. So, these hotlines are available. Let me see. There's also a veterans lifeline as well, and that one's 1-800-273-8255. Same thing for veterans. All right. So you can call the crisis hotline for the veterans, 1-800-273-8255, and press 1, and that'll get you to the veterans hotline. Okay. All right. So, if you have questions, you're more than welcome to ask. I hope this was very informative. I hope the education or the advice that I gave was very, once again, helpful. You can also text to 838-255 if you want to use that. If you want to text 838-255. They have that option as well as chatting online. So I know it's been 30 minutes, but guess what? Information like this is critical, and it is important that you hear this information to help you, or to help others, or to help someone else who may be dealing with this. One suicide is too many, and we have too many. Okay? Once again, one suicide, one PTSD episode, one disassociation, one abduction, one rape, one is too many. 1-800-273-8255. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope this was very helpful and informative for you. Have a great day. Oh, I'm still alive. All right, so I think I'm going to try to finish up here and end it. I think that I need to, let's see. I've done live before, but, oh, yes, end. Y'all have a great day. Take care. If you need anything, you can definitely reach out to me. I'm on social media, Joseph Robinson. I'm on Facebook, on Twitter, The Real Joseph. What am I on the Twitter under? I think it's The Real Joseph 2020. But you can find, if you find me on here, you'll be able to find me on Twitter. All right?